You ready?
There is a connection between the paranormal, UFOs, and the myths of ancient history. The clues are scattered across the landscape from a forbidden past, maybe even in your own backyard. There is a connection between the true nature of our reality, consciousness, and the unexplained. I'm Carl the Crusher. Let's explore the unknown. Welcome to the Carl Crusher channel. Big shout out to the Patreon Inner Circle, all of the Inner Circle subscribers and members of the Patreon page that get all the exclusive access and one-on-one conversations with me on my Patreon page. For those of you that aren't familiar, make sure and go check it out. Usually what you see on my YouTube channel, everyone on this list here gets a first look at it, usually 6 weeks to maybe sometimes even 2 months in advance. So they'll get the raw edits before anybody else does. So yeah, shout out to all of you guys, and that army is growing over there. Plus, I've also put in my new meditation workshops over there on my Patreon Inner Circle. So, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm watching the chat over there. Tinfoil Tiara, hi. Mind Forked is here. What's up? Digger Dog, Sand Dollar, Sonia Jefferson. Hey, everybody. I love the early crew here. It looks like we've got already over 120 people watching the live right now. Make sure and remember to smash the like button. And there's a little bell icon on the YouTube channel that if you select that, you can turn on notifications so that when I come out with new content or I've got something scheduled to go live or premiere, that way you can get the notifications. It's not really very annoying. YouTube does a really good job about it, and you can turn it off whenever you like. So we have some awesome announcements today. One of the main research areas for those of you that have been following my content and my work, I've been posting a lot of controversial stuff lately, right? So, one of the main things that I've been doing is going up and around Skinwalker Ranch and following the breadcrumb trails around Bob Bigelow's previous research locations, which led me to a place called Mount Wilson Ranch in Nevada. And we have been trying to get Mr. Bigelow to talk about this forever. I even went to his offices and talked to Colm Kelleher and tried to get him to admit some things. And so finally, we have a statement from Mr. Bob Bigelow himself. And I've been posting it all over publicly. And I want to just say that this entire video and live stream is for educational purposes and just for entertainment purposes. Everything is just for fair and free use. And so we're doing this in a journalistic fashion just to also cross promote. And at the end of this video, when it posts publicly, I'm going to put all of the links and references so that you can go check everything out for yourself to give full credit so you can go watch everything that we talk about. Okay, so thanks everybody. Akashi Krish, thanks for the inside scoop. All right, I'm going to flip over here to the comments section. We're going to shout everybody out, become a member of the Crusher crew. Hey, Mongrel. Hey, Re-Indigenizing Minds Project. Everybody can go follow their Patreon as well. They are doing a lot of the cool ancient indigenous mapping systems and understanding that as relation to the petroglyphs. And what they all mean, how it all adds up, and even how they even lead to Mount Wilson Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch, and how we can interpret all of the ancient artifacts that we find there, including pottery, arrowhead flaking, stone structures, and what it actually means to us when we go there and how it's affecting us in these paranormal hotspots. So before we get too far, let's go ahead and watch this video and make sure you can tell me if you hear the audio or not. So I should have it so that it shares the audio for the tab. We're going to go to my Patreon page now and watch this interview between Jeffrey Mishlove over on his New Thinking Aloud. I think that's his YouTube channel. He's got a great YouTube channel where he interviews a lot of very key people. Somehow Mishlove is connected to all of these guys. But he actually got an interview and did a live stream with Bob Bigelow um, just the other day. And here it is. So this is pretty crazy when I saw this, because you got to realize, we've been, for those of you that have been following my documentary series and the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show on the History Channel, we have been trying to figure out what's going on, what's real and what's not. A lot of people like to play off Mount Wilson Ranch like, hey, this place was just somewhere he stopped and visited and didn't really do anything. It was like a vacation house or whatever. But now we have more of the story. He is coming forward and fully admitting that he interviewed hundreds of people up there and all kinds of cool stuff. So we're going to watch that together now, and we'll pause it as we go. Okay, so here we go.
In your face or chasing you in your car.
One of the things I didn't even know about you was that there was
Can you guys hear that?
second ranch, the Wilson Ranch, and for all I know, additional properties as well.
Yeah, well, when I first started to do ET UFO research, I personally interviewed about 235 people, just myself and the experiencer. And most of those interviews were in the area between Caliente, Panaca, and Pioche. And then
So there's Mount Wilson Ranch. So he just said it right there in Pioche and Panaca and Caliente. So you can draw a straight line. Roger, you're here in the chat, re-indigenizing minds. I'm telling you, this is gonna be on the same line as the Magic Mesa, as Little Black Mountain, where the petroglyphs are, and all the way back into your mapping system, Roger. So it all lines up. So this is pretty fascinating that he names these towns in a row in the way that everything basically flows together, almost like a ley line. So everything you can hear, excellent. Oh, you guys are awesome. I swear the Crusher crew is the best ever. I freaking love you guys. You always show up and you're active in the chat, ask great questions, and this stuff is cool.
the Mount Wilson Ranch was in line with that. And the more people I interviewed, the more it was obvious that events were happening up and down that corridor. And the Mount Wilson Ranch was part of that corridor. And so I thought, well, it could be an interesting laboratory. And so that's why I bought it. And then I had some really good interviews with people very close. I didn't pay any attention to something at a real distance, unless it was huge, football stadium size. But
what? Did everybody hear what he just said? He said he wasn't even interested in anything if it was in the distance or far away. He only wanted to pay attention and go research places where the sightings included things that were football field sized or more, like football stadium sized or more. Isn't that crazy? Up close or chasing the vehicles. So he's not even going to Mount Wilson Ranch because of like ghost stories or whatever, like we originally thought. Like, see, we even have the shaman on the screen on the Patreon page there. But let's back that up again and listen to what he said right there again. Yeah, we're also, yeah, everybody needs to watch the Mexican government disclosure. We're going to jump over to that a little bit at the end because they allegedly released an alien body, and they're going over like autopsy stuff, and they show images of an alien body. So we'll go over that and share that screen as well. So good point. We're also going to get to the David Grusch interview. We're going to go through that and kind of talk about some of the key people that suddenly pop up in that video as well. And it surprisingly also ties back into what Bigelow's talking about right now. All these people are connected to Skinwalker Ranch, Mount Wilson Ranch, even David Grusch, all of it. Whether you like it or not, it is all interconnected if you connect the dots. So let's back this up just a little bit and listen to what he said again here.
the more it was obvious that events were happening.
Okay, really quick. Also, if you're new here, watch the bottom of this video as well, because the bottom half of it is all historical information and data from Mount Wilson Ranch that goes along with what he's talking about.
Caliente.
So here's the 3 towns in a line.
just myself and the experiencer. And most of those interviews were in the area between Caliente, Panaca, and Pioche. And then the Mount Wilson Ranch was in line with that. And the more people I interviewed, the more it was obvious that events were happening up and down that corridor. And the Mount Wilson Ranch was part of that corridor. And so I thought, well, it could be an interesting laboratory. And so that's why.
Okay, so there's a lot of admissions spilling out that beforehand we just speculated about based on the photographs that you see in the bottom half of the picture. So you see, like, we definitely knew that they were up there. We've been looking into the patents of Tim Ryan. We've been looking into who Hal Puthoff is because he's in the photo, in the photos. We Colm Kelleher's up there, Jacques Vallée's up there, and then guess what? Hal Puthoff is going to make an appearance in the David Grusch interview, and Jacques Vallée is going to make an appearance in the David Grusch interview, and all of this is going to be just like 1 degree of separation from Mount Wilson Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. And all of this is surprisingly going to revolve around these claims that they have metamaterials. No joke, metamaterials. And the metamaterials, I'm going to drop this right here. First time ever. Everybody ready? The metamaterials, from what I don't even think Jeff knows this at Mount Wilson Ranch, have to do with bismuth. So we've had leaked to us that it's a very common geological element that most people overlook its qualities. But there is a type of bismuth that has a reverse magnetic quality when it's been exposed to certain types of geological environments. And this bismuth has anti-gravity element 115 type properties. So it is a certain magnetic or reverse magnetic type of bismuth. That's the type of one that turns into solid formations like squares and cubes, diamond shapes and things like that when it's mixed to certain temperatures and chemical reactions, but it also can take a liquid form. So it's very interesting. Yeah, go check out bismuth. It's very similar to liquid mercury, but bismuth is going to start coming up more and more and more. Just remember that you heard it here first. And I think, and I wonder if some of the patents and all this talk about metamaterial in this UFO whistleblower hearing, and with what David Grusch is saying, and why Hal Puthoff is in all these photos, and why Tim Ryan is in the photographs up at Mount Wilson Ranch, and he has all of this DARPA funding, Navy funding, Air Force funding, all these patents that have to do with these phased array directed energy systems in order to retrieve metamaterials and to observe and track and map out underground tunnels and structures. So what were they all doing up there at Mount Wilson Ranch? It's a huge mystery. Yes, bismuth is a super weird looking mineral. Hey, Akashi. Hey, everybody. Yeah, maybe the real quicksilver. Very interesting. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going on the video.
I bought it. And then I had some really good interviews with people very close. I didn't pay any attention to something at a real distance, unless it was huge, football stadium size. But if it were, a couple miles, a mile.
Okay, so there again, he says he's only interested in the UFO sighting locations where there's hundreds of reports, and the reports are huge, football field stadium sized or bigger, up close, in person, or chasing behind vehicles. And here we have Mount Wilson Ranch, the original Skinwalker Ranch crew, owned and operated by Bigelow. And here's Bigelow. I think this is Colm Kelleher. This, I think, is Eric Davis. Here is Jacques Vallée. There's Hal Puthoff, and there's Dr. Tim Ryan, who has all of the patents on the phased arrays and everything. So this is interesting. And now we've got Bigelow openly admitting now that they were up there actually looking for UFO evidence, according to him so far.
To a way, it didn't matter. That didn't count. That wasn't.
Back up. Everybody's seen those photos.
Miles a mile to a way, it didn't matter.
So there's the settler's cabin. There, the phased array is down in the meadow out in front of that cabin.
That didn't
There they are in the lodge. I know it's going really quick. Here we go.
that didn't count. That wasn't. I wanted stuff that was literally in your face or chasing you in your car, you know, or you're sitting outside the restaurant and you're seeing this literally football stadium craft drifting across your town, you know, and so those are really interesting accounts. And the Skinwalker Ranch had a log house there that was about 1875 vintage, and it had a
So he said Skinwalker Ranch there, but he misspoke because he meant Mount Wilson Ranch. So he's talking about that settler's cabin at Mount Wilson Ranch. Jeffrey Mishlove corrects him here. We'll back this up. I kind of interrupted you guys.
restaurant, and you're seeing this literally football stadium craft drifting across your town, you know, and so those are really interesting accounts. And the Skinwalker Ranch had a log house there that was about 1875 vintage, and it had a saloon like you would see at Knott's Berry Farm.
You mean the Wilson Ranch?
I'm sorry, the Wilson Ranch.
Yeah.
The Wilson Ranch. And so the Wilson Ranch had a house about 1875 in terms of its age. And the back bar.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about the Mexican UFO whistleblower release and all of that stuff and talking about the body. We're going to jump over that. I have that tab open. We're just covering all of the news right now. So here we go.
Came around, I think they said Cape Horn, and also at about that same time for this Knott's Berry Farm looking saloon that they had built there. They had built a saloon with other ancillary kinds of, you know, like a little restaurant area and a commercial kitchen and so forth, and then a little motel that they had there, and so interesting place, about 145 acres in size.
So there he is. He admits the ranch. He knows the acreage. He talks about the giant UFO sightings, that he's only interested in a location where huge structure-sized craft are seen and chase vehicles or come right down in your face, right on the ground. And that's his explanation as to why he was up at Mount Wilson Ranch. And then it gets even stranger. But see, keep an eye down on the bottom of the screen as well in this video, because there you've got Bigelow at Mount Wilson Ranch in Nevada, 1996. If you go back and watch the other videos in this series where we talk about what's going on up at Mount Wilson Ranch and the patents that we found with Dr. Tim Ryan from Sarah in 1996, and the timeline of all that is critical. The characters from Hal Puthoff, Jacques Vallée, John Alexander, all of these people are interconnected, and it all ties like a web up to David Grusch and the UFO whistleblowers. So, okay, so now there it is. There he is in the book that was written. There's Jacques Vallée's legs, Tim Ryan. This is Hal Puthoff right here, and they're all at Mount Wilson Ranch.
Then there was the issue you and I spoke of, I guess it might have even been yesterday, of the UFO that flew right into the mountain there.
Say what? So Jeff told me about that story the first time I met him. Jeff McBurney, the owner of Mount Wilson Ranch that Bigelow sold the ranch directly to. He told me that Bigelow told him that they had seen a giant orb of light, beams of light, and even a craft that flew down from the sky and merged into Mount Wilson. And it didn't crash, it didn't explode or anything like that. It merged in and phased in, and other people have seen this, but now we're going to hear it firsthand.
Yeah. I was talking with these neighbors because there were quite a few other homes outside of the ranch. And so there are a group of them one night are looking up in the sky, and this unidentified flying object, this UFO, is doing figure eights, right? And it keeps doing them and doing them. And so they stand there and they're watching this, and then it deviates dramatically and it shoots off at low altitude right into the mountain itself. But there's no explosion. It's just gone. So the guys get together the next morning, they hike up there to the mountain, and they're looking for debris. They're looking for burnt shrub, anything, trees, whatever. They find nothing, absolutely nothing.
Notice again here. So this is a patent on the bottom of the page, or this is not a patent, but an experimental project by Tim Ryan, who we just saw in that book in the photos with Bigelow at Mount Wilson. And this is experimental investigation of an electromagnetic gravitational interaction, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. And there's real prototypes, actual devices in this book when you turn the page.
And that's similar to the story off the Skinwalker Ranch. There's a highway, and there's a mountain that they had to cut in order to continue the highway. And it's not at that location. It might only be 75, 80 feet in height, something like that, 7 or 8 stories high. And we talked to somebody that said they had seen it, a craft, go right into that mountain and disappear.
So has anybody else, first of all, in the chat, has anybody else seen anything similar? UFO or a craft or an orb phasing in and out of solid ground objects or mountains, right? So here we have a confirming story and multiple accounts from Bob Bigelow's own mouth himself from Mount Wilson Ranch. And then he immediately says, similar to that spot on the main road, and I've been on this road, it runs north to south when you're coming in from Duchesne, right up to Fort Duchesne, up to Skinwalker Ranch, the road that you turn right to go up to the main gate. Right there, they cut the end of Skinwalker Mesa off and put a road in, and there have been witnesses that see the same thing, giant UFOs and orbs of light phasing in and out of the mountain. Now, again, remember, in the previous videos and live streams that I've done on this channel, we've gone through Tim Ryan, the phased array directed energy systems that are capable in the patents and in a lot of the journals and books that some of these scientists were involved in as laser physicists prior to Mount Wilson Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch going clear into the psychotronic weapons era of Howard Hughes. These guys had an interest in all of that as well. So we have to ask ourselves, are these guys really trying to go and find UFOs and aliens and interdimensional portals, or are they really getting funded and contracted for developing and testing out these systems, or going and finding them and upgrading them from previous eras? So it's an interesting topic. Okay, let's finish this.
I imagine that's where the legends got generated, that there are UFOs buried in the somewhere under the earth.
Well, I actually contracted, one of the contracts I had with a very well-known, highly regarded remote viewer that worked for the government for quite a period of time and was tested by the government. And I could name the agency. It was an.
I guarantee you that he's talking about Hal Puthoff or Ingo Swann. One of those two. He's either talking about Hal Puthoff or Ingo Swann, but we know for a fact that Hal Puthoff is in the photos. Yeah, so George Clooney, somebody mentioned, Hillbilly mentions George Clooney in the chat, but that's actually Colonel Alexander was who was George Clooney was portrayed by. They came out with that movie, Men Who Stares at Goats, to make a joke out of remote viewing because they didn't want people to realize it worked. So they turned it into a joke. But meanwhile, Colonel Alexander was actually getting given awards from Brazil and from Johns Hopkins and from DARPA and all these people for non-lethal weapons development. So while they're making that movie with George Clooney trying to make it look funny, he's actually building non-lethal weapons technology and getting awards and government contracts to do that. So before you treat it like it's a joke, they play all these games like Cloak and Dagger, like a magician, they show you one thing and do another. So we're going to find out what's really buried under Mount Wilson Ranch. We're going to dig it up. So
Agency, the Army had its program and the CIA had their program.
So the Army had its program. He's talking about Project Stargate. That was the remote viewing psychic spy program that was developed by Hal Puthoff, who's in all of the photos that we just saw at Mount Wilson Ranch. Yeah, but Hal is supposed to be good at CE5. They invented CE5. Stephen Greer is the one who came up with CE5, and we've got photos of him with Bigelow at a place in Wyoming. I don't even want to say his name, the Rockefeller Ranch.
And each had
They're
their
a part of
programs
this.
for about 20 years.
Oh, there it is. There's the photo right there. See, look, there's Stephen Greer. I was just talking about it. See, there's Stephen Greer, second from the left, talking about CE5. And look, ding, there's Bob Bigelow. There's Linda Moulton Howe. There's Mr. Spooky Dude. 1993. So this is 3 years before they're all at Mount Wilson Ranch. Here's Greer. Yeah, and so they're all now the psychic spy, the remote viewer that Bigelow is absolutely talking about is Hal Puthoff, without a doubt. That's who's in the photos at Mount Wilson Ranch. That he was the guy who invented remote viewing at the Stanford Research Institute. He worked directly with Uri Geller. He worked with Joe McMoneagle. He was trained by Andrea Puharich. He got technology from Michael Persinger. He was funded by the Army and the CIA. The whole thing went underground and became a black ops project that was combined with the gateway research from the Monroe Institute that Bob Monroe developed without all the out-of-body travel stuff. So all of that is interconnected and has to inform what we're seeing here.
And they put about $1 million a piece. So $20 million for the Army, $20 million for the CIA, what I was told. And so I hired him to remote view the Skinwalker Ranch. And boy, he was very accurate. I'm just thinking this is going to get.
CE5 is a version of reverse remote viewing where you do a psychic telepathy, a meditation method to try and make contact with UFOs, to make UFOs appear in the sky and come down, or alien or extraterrestrial or interdimensional entities to appear. So it's like a psychic training method that the military was using to try and open other dimensional portals. And they use technology, lasers, headsets, and all of that to not only try to do that for real, but they also were developing the technology to try and spoof and hoax it and to fake it, like Inception, where they would implant hallucinations into people. So they would be in another room, project a frequency or an energy beam, a laser into someone's brain, and make them think that they were telepathic, or make them think that they were abducted by aliens or on a UFO. And they could do all that with the psychotronic technology. They've had that technology going clear back to the end of World War II. It's pretty wild. Okay, let's keep going.
Give Brandon some ideas now that he can do a show. Because what was really interesting was what he revealed as to what he thought was underground at a significant depth.
Okay, so what was underground at a significant depth was a UFO. And apparently at Skinwalker Ranch, they believed that there was a sports size or model craft like a flying saucer. And at Mount Wilson Ranch, they believed that there was an entire structure with smaller ones coming and going and merging and phasing in and out of the mountain. And so far, it seems like every single thing that we kick over in the mystery at Mount Wilson Ranch is adding up. And now, instead of debunking it and coming out and saying, oh, there was nothing there at Mount Wilson, we just went up there and I bought the place for a luxury retreat for the employees to go hang out. We never really did anything. Oh no, he went up there because they were obviously looking for giant craft in your face, down on the ground, phasing in and out of the mountain. And the patents and the scientists and the researchers all up there show that they were doing remote viewing, or at least they're pretending to, and they had the technology, and they were also trying to do some kind of directed energy system infrastructure, either to keep the alien thing in on track so they could monitor it like an EMP system, or or they were trying to get metamaterials or this bismuth stuff out of the ground. So it's really fascinating. So now that we've gone over that, we've talked about some of these key figures, Jacques Vallée, Hal Puthoff, and all of that, who have been at Mount Wilson Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. Now we're going to jump over. First of all, I got to show, this is where you can find that video on Investigating the Paranormal live stream event with Robert Bigelow, New Thinking Aloud with Jeffrey Mishlove. I know that he's cool with this and that we're going over all this, and it's fascinating. As soon as I shared this video earlier, like a highlight on Instagram, and I tagged him, he shared it to his story. And so I'm trying to use this as an avenue, chatting on Instagram with Jeffrey Mishlove. It might be cool if everybody after this live stream goes over to this video and tells them, Mr. Bigelow, please go to Mount Wilson Ranch. Please talk to Jeff and go to Mount Wilson, because we're ready for Mr. B to come up to Mount Wilson and maybe bring Hal Puthoff and finally answer some of our questions, because we have found something down in the meadow and we have a tunnel that we're getting ready to dig open, and we may have uncovered and stumbled across this stuff that they either couldn't find or that they left behind. And it's time to talk to these guys face to face. So if you want to go watch that full interview, he talks about a ton of really interesting stuff, all the way down to his theories on the paranormal and the afterlife. And it's kind of cool because Bigelow even goes into, whether you like him or not, he talks about how the theories of the afterlife and consciousness surviving after death is an even bigger mystery than UFOs, bigger mystery than nuclear science or free energy or anything. To be able to transcend into the afterlife is like the biggest mystery. And so it's kind of a cool interview, and I recommend you go check it out. There's a lot of good ones on there. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to the whistleblower hearing. Let me make sure I got my tab right. You can check this out on the Jesse Michaels show, UFO Whistleblower. Dave Grusch tells everything. Now I've got this like Chat GPT transcript summary over here on the right, so everybody can follow along and you can read. If you don't want to sit and listen to my commentary and you just want to read about what they talked about in the interview, you can jump over here. And so let's go for it. Okay, so also checking out you guys' chat, looking for the super chats. I appreciate you guys. You guys are all awesome. We got people from all over the world over here, it looks like, hanging out. Okay, so we're going to cover this one, this new interview with David Grusch. And then I promise, look at this. We've got the alien body. Look at it. There it is. So that's a quick tease. We're going to go back to the Mexico UFO hearing and release and the alien body that they supposedly have that had eggs or something, right? I don't know. So here we go. We're going to start here. I'm going to turn the sound on. Let me know if it's too loud or just right. And we'll go for it. Now, I'm going to have to skip around and pause and commentate, because the music that he uses in this is probably copyrighted. And the fact that I'm playing video clips and things that I don't own the right to, I'm just doing this for like entertainment purposes for free use. And so we'll see. I'm going to do my best.
Or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth.
Okay.
Yup, there I am.
This is really interesting. Just at the beginning of this video, as we scroll through, to just see at the convention, at the conference, I'm just going to mute it. We'll play the video part. So he's showing all that. Look who's here. So in the background, you've got the Sean Ryan podcast. I think he's pretty cool. He just had Brandon Fugel, a lot of whistleblowers from the UFO community coming out from the military on his show recently. So it's like he's a key player. You've got George Knapp. He's been covering the Bob Lazar story and Skinwalker Ranch from the beginning. Look who this is, Jeremy Corbell. He made one of the first Skinwalker Ranch documentaries ever. And now these guys have a podcast called Weaponized. Behind them is their lawyer. And then you've got Commander Fravor from the Tic Tac incident, Grusch, and Graves. And then you got a lot of other, interesting characters in the background. Okay, we'll keep going here. So it's just a recap of basically who Grusch is, and then, what a likable guy he is. Now, I'm just going to say my first impression of all of this is that David Grusch and a lot of this even the evidence that came out in the whistleblower hearing, in my opinion, is a whole hell of a lot of trust me, bro, a whole lot of that going on. And I mean, they're not showing dead bodies like over in Mexico, apparently. These guys Grusch is telling a lot of secondhand stories. And when you see some of the pictures of the people that pop up in this video, I think you're going to realize who these stories and who he's getting his claims from. So when he went in front of Congress, if it felt at all scripted or like it was staged or like the congressman already knew what was coming, it's almost like he was coached a little bit by some of these people. And let's see if you pick up who I'm talking about as we go along. Okay.
When we were introduced by
Blue Book.
Do you think Bob Lazar is full of shit? Have we made any agreements with any of the aliens? Do you have a sense of, the species?
and if you combine our open source research with his
David Charles Grusch. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and
Okay, so these guys were in the room. Obviously. Okay, so he's giving his credentials. They're spending a good 10 minutes showing this is a likable guy. He's like a everyday dude, next door neighbor type. They're really building him up to not look like counterintelligence.
The last special access program that leaked. They don't generally leak.
People are like, oh, dude, wouldn't it be broadly leaked or whatever? I'm like, as somebody who is super cleared to a lot of that conventional stuff over the years, stuff never leaks.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out. There are plenty of things that are pretty serious, they're broad, that have never seen the light of day.
Of course, like you're going to.
I kind of have to agree with him on that, because even what I know of the drone technology, the energy devices that they have, the phased array systems, directed energy systems, anti-gravity and all that I know that they already have. Yeah, their ability to keep secrets and to blame UFOs to hide it all and vice versa is elaborate. And that's part of what I think makes all of this so messy. So yeah, you guys are awesome. I'm still watching you guys. You guys are all entertaining each other in the chat. And there's almost 400 people here. You guys are dope for sharing this and hitting the like button. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead and get to some of the more juicy stuff. Okay, so here's the hearing. So now this is where they go. They build up his credentials. He's a super likable guy. And then they're going to start affiliation dropping and name dropping and bringing in, like, moving all the big chess pieces all across the board. That's what we're going to see.
Or the shit's real.
Most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government.
And then Schumer was compelled to write that big 64-page amendment that talks no shit, non-human tech, recoveries. And you're the majority leader who's tight with the president, putting out a law that will be signed here hopefully this fall that really puts the fucking executive in a bind.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was done in a vacuum.
So but do we not feel like, and is our instinct not screaming at us that this seat just not long ago, if we don't have amnesia, all of this is like deja vu, only sitting in that chair was a guy named Lou Elizondo, right? But now it's David Grusch. And let's see if it's connected. We know that Lou Elizondo is in photos and hanging out with Bigelow already. We know that he had affiliations with Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy. He was working with Chris Mellon. But where is he? He's kind of been lurking around all this stuff.
I think the one thing that can get the left and the right together is bloat in the military-industrial complex or malfeasance therein,
Yeah, nobody likes that. I don't think members of Congress don't like getting the door shut on them either. So they want that information because they represent the
They want answers.
Yeah.
And that was the Matt Gaetz story.
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force Base indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew.
Okay, that is pretty crazy. That is crazy. The way that they've got it structured, where there's this need to know, to where people who really obviously are supposed to be there to keep our best interests in mind are being cut off or not allowed to know certain aspects of this and what it's all about. and why they would do that. And as we get onto this later, they end up playing this off as though it has to do with the fact that this UFO technology and reverse engineered technology and metamaterial knowledge and science is more exotic and crazier and more sensitive than nuclear and atomic secrets to them. And so it's at a higher level of importance and secrecy and violation, especially when you start talking about the biologics, when those come up, which is weird. But again, we've got to fact check all of this with the patents, with the people who were there and what they were really doing. Were they really looking for UFOs or trying to keep us safe from extra dimensional beings? Or is this all just smoke and mirrors so that they can establish an entire triangulated grid across the planet of phased array psychotronic systems to hoax all of this stuff? So we have to wonder, which one is it? And the whole way along, we've got to stay smart and determine which it is. And let's pay attention again, all the people who keep coming up here.
Basically denied access to
We're going to skip
non-human
ahead a little.
intelligence,
Yeah.
but they had bodies.
That are currently still on the program.
One sort of bombshell soundbite from the hearing is Congresswoman Nancy Mace asked you about biologics. Ross Coulthart in the News Nation interview asked you about pilots coming out of these crafts. Do you want to just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it is a mind-blowing side of it, right? It's a little easy to imagine.
Okay, so should we just give Mexico a bunch of credit right now? Because here's Grusch folding his arms, going, he doesn't really know. Because remember, this is a whole lot of a trust me, bro conversation. Everything that Grusch is saying is almost like regurgitated from Elizondo or from conversations he's had with Hal Puthoff or somebody else behind the scenes that have put all of this information in front of him. And now Grusch is like, wow, like I've been given access to this. Now he's going to have to prove otherwise if that's not the case. But just for fun, let's jump over here. Now, I do not speak Spanish, but I'm going to jump back here. This is the part right here. We'll just turn the sound on and let's just see. Do you guys want to see it? Let's just jump over because we've got the David Grusch whistleblower with a carrot on a stick with biological bodies and aliens coming out of craft, just teasing it. But here we got Jaime Maussan, who I've met in person and interviewed before. He's a really cool guy. Let's hear what they got to say.
Aceptado liberar esta información y permitir a los congresistas ser testigos de estos restos biológicos. Aquí hoy vamos a presentar dos seres que fueron recuperados.
Oh, they're pulling off like sheets, like it's a coffin.
En Perú, en una mina de diatomea. Son cuerpos desecados encontrados entre las ciudades de Palpa y de Nazca en 2017, que han sido investigados profundamente.
Shout out to Christina Gomez. Everybody go subscribe to her channel too. Well, I got to hit the like button.
Tanto por investigadores, periodistas, como por científicos, que hoy aquí van a dar a conocer algunas de sus extraordinarias conclusiones. Quiero llamar en primer lugar al investigador Joyce Mantilla, que ha investigado este tema desde el primer momento. ¿Ya se descubrieron?
In a moment. Are you ready?
Vamos a descubrir en este momento esos cuerpos.
Wait, are these actual bodies? Wait, I thought it was just photos. They've actually got freaking coffins. Holy shit. Those are the bodies. Those are bodies propped up on display. What? I'm going to go to theater mode. Holy crap.
Declararlo aquí. Son seres no humanos que no son parte de nuestra evolución terrestre y que después de desaparecer.
Dude, if this is real, if these are real, if these prove out genetically, this is the craziest thing that we're all seeing right now. This is the craziest thing ever. Only one of these things has to be real for this to matter and for this to be a big freaking deal. This is crazy if this is real.
no hay una evolución posterior.
If this is not real, if this is a hoax, this is crazy. Equally as crazy that they would go to this length. Oh my gosh. Alien bodies. Yeah, you guys. Alien bodies. What the what? Here we go. You guys, there's so many cool people here. We got 410 in the chat. Roll call. Where is everybody from? We're watching alien corpses get revealed in coffins on Christina Gomez's live stream of the UFO disclosure in and whistleblower hearing in Mexico, and going over comparing it to David Grusch's and seeing if it connects back to the metamaterials found at Mount Wilson Ranch in Skinwalker. Holy crap, you guys. They're like little people. If those are real, holy shit. They look like the little petroglyph dudes. Look at how the shoulders go out and the arms go down and the arms go out. These are either fake and they look like they're made out of clay. They look like fossilized. Look at how the arms go down. The rectangular heads. They look like freaking petroglyph guys. Like the ancient alien petroglyphs. If those are real, this is freaking weird. Holy crap. 75% unknown DNA. Helen, have they said that in the live stream? What's up, everybody? Going on 400 people now. This is awesome. They have, yes. Okay, maybe I'll try to pull that up. All of the petroglyphs, they've got that that arms up like this in a square figure like that, arms down and the legs out like that. They're all depicted like that, and their heads, they can make human heads round, but a lot of these ones with the arms like that have got rectangular shaped heads like this, or ovals. I'm not joking. I mean, I've been to probably over 100 petroglyph sites all over to try and compare all of this. This is freaking weird. If these are real, this is crazy. This is the craziest thing we're watching this.
De acuerdo a la Universidad Nacional.
If this is real, if you guys think this is real, you should be sharing this, what we're doing out right now, and tell people that are into this, because this is like that moment in in that M. Night, what is that freaking movie? Oh my gosh. Signs, when he's in the closet and the alien appears. This is bizarre.
Autónoma de México, quien realizó los
It
análisis.
totally, come on. It looks, you're right. It looks like, or freak show. It totally looks like something that you'd see down in Hollywood at the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, right?
De carbono 14.
Close up of the face. Holy crap. Look at all this powdery stuff. Is that like to preserve it? Is that like embalming powder? Look at the little mouth. Look at the elongated skull. The neck is so much farther back from the face. The face is like clear, protruded out like a, right? That is freaking weird. I imagine if it was alive and the eyes were open, they would be probably as big as the lids appear to be here. This looks like, it's so crazy. It's like the brow ridge and just about along the bottom lip is just completely jutted out. It totally looks like E.T. from Steven Spielberg's movie. What? What the hell? No way. How do, is this predictive programming? Yeah. Is this where they Is this disinformation? This is the freaking craziest thing ever. I'm so glad you guys told me to go over to this live stream.
Estos seres tienen alrededor de 1000 años de antigüedad. Es decir,
Thank you,
no
Oracles.
se trata de seres que fueron recuperados en naves que son estrellamientos, sino son seres que estaban sepultados.
Helen, there's scans. It's specifically a dead ET. Look at it. It's in a child-sized sealed, what do they call that? Hermetically sealed box, a latch box. It's like in a silk custom coffin. It totally looks like freaking ET. Oh my gosh, look at that. This is crazy. Where is it? No, I skipped all over. No way. No way.
Aquel tiempo y al desaparecer se fosilizó.
I'm having so much
Y
fun.
la
This is so
diatomea
crazy.
tiene características extraordinarias. Deseca a los cuerpos.
Spielberg was dealing with Dr. Hynek, says Jenny. Yes. We'll put that on the screen. Yes, Jenny, Spielberg was dealing with Dr. Hynek. Dr. Hynek was in a group called the Playboy Club with Jacques Vallée and the guy that wrote the book, The Utah UFO Display, Frank Salisbury. And they did that up at Skinwalker Ranch and about all of the UFO sightings in Utah. So how crazy, why is this all? Look at these things. There's two of them. Did they come out of the same craft? Okay. Hang on. Now I'm going to go from here in the background. These are not even mine. I'm just going to pull up images of what I'm talking about as to why. Look at these petroglyphs. Look at how the arms are coming in and out of portals and how the arms and the legs are bent like that. Fremont culture. Look at this. That one's a boy, or it has a tail. See? These are all, I just wrote petroglyph figures. These are all over the world. Look at the head shape. Look at the head shape over here. Look at the body. Look at the way the arms go out. See what I'm talking about? Look at these figures. Some of these have horns and headdresses and all of that. Obviously, some of these are lizards. This is petroglyphs at the Magic Mesa. This is right by my house. I've filmed tons of videos here. These look like craft with figures coming out. Right? Okay, so yeah, we've got all these anomalies, but look at the arms like this and that, the anthropomorphic figures coming out of portals. Maybe this is all not so crazy. Right? Yeah, I still draw like that too. I've got hours and hours and hours of documentary series going and mapping out the ancient petroglyphs. You can go see and watch for yourself, where I go and I work with Roger and Colleen from the Re-Indigenizing Minds Project to try and figure all this stuff out.
No permite el crecimiento de bacterias.
This is so freaking cool.
Por tanto, permitió preservar estos cuerpos por 1000 años desecados. No se trata de momias, se trata de cuerpos que están
up close at the neck and the chin. Look at all this powder on the chest and the face. Dude, if this is real.
íntegros, completos, que no han sido manipulados en su interior y que tienen una serie de elementos que los hacen verdaderamente extraordinarios.
Somebody translate.
Por favor, Joyce Mantilla, si quieres pasar por acá. Por favor, adelante.
Yeah, Alien Girl, bodies. Mexican releases doing bodies. Yo. Freaking bodies, guys.
La sorpresa es
I thought they were just gonna show like pictures. No. They literally legit rolled out freaking coffins, child-sized coffins, unlatched them, took the lid off. I was like, wow, they're pulling the sheet off like this is a funeral. And then mind blown, that's exactly what it was.
está por allá, el otro extremo de la sala. Sin embargo, quiero aprovechar para agradecer al
Why are UFOs only appearing in North America? Apparently they're not. This video that we're watching right now is alien dead bodies down in Mexico, yo. So yeah, what is the next country to disclose going to
a
disclose,
esta mesa
right?
ilustre de invitados, al diputado Sergio.
I have no idea where they were found, guys. I can't,
Nos ha
I don't
traído
know
hasta aquí.
Spanish, so we're just watching this, and if you can translate it.
Y obviamente entiendo la posición de mis colegas.
This is
que en
over
este
on
momento
Christina
están,
Gomez's
obviamente
channel.
atraídos por la sorpresa que les hemos traído. Yo normalmente estoy en la posición de ellos. Tienen
Let's
que
skip here.
bajarse ahorita de ahí. Después van a poder bajar, desplazarse cuando acabe. Falta poco, faltan 2 ponencias más y nos... Es lo que importa. Lo importante es lo que podemos demostrar. Mi investigación periodística, la número 5, mi investigación periodística se basa en estudios académicos y científicos.
It does look like Pompeians. Oh, eggs. You're right. It does look like those like victims of Pompeii, like they were petrified or whatever in the. Look at that. Those are X-ray scans. You could see the freaking bones. Look at how the ribs are like a complete ring, like a slinky. The hips come down. These things lay freaking eggs. There's 3 eggs. What is going on? They show pics of the excavation later. Are they? Yeah. Are they drug? Are these drug smuggling? Are these fake bodies? They were trying to smuggle in some customs thing because they had El Chapo stuff inside. 3 fingers, 3 toes. Look at the arms and the legs out, the head shape. There's totally petroglyphs that look like these things.
Realizados en varios países.
So wait, does this mean these are female? Yeah, why are they talking about mummies at a UFO conference unless they are pretty confident? But somebody was saying that there was like 90% unknown DNA.
Países y con el respaldo de algunos de los más prestigiosos laboratorios del mundo.
These are all the companies. These are all the genetic companies that have run tests, apparently.
Peritos forenses y criminalísticos, genetistas, biofísicos, radiólogos, microcirujanos y hasta ingenieros metalúrgicos. Ustedes dirán, ¿por qué ingenieros metalúrgicos según los cuerpos? Ahora lo van a saber. Con restos de otros animales diciendo que es falso. Y no vayan a la UNAM a averiguar verdaderamente. Quisieron confundir a la opinión diciendo que es falso. Y no vayan a la UNAM a averiguar verdaderamente de qué se trata.
This is a lot. Yes, alien girl. What the hell is going on?
En la pantalla pueden ver al lado derecho algunos de los análisis que se han hecho de estos cuerpos.
Look at the chest. It's seriously like, as they try to make it a girl? Like what?
Y al otro lado,
this is like the Patterson Gimlin thing when everybody realized the Bigfoot was a she, a her, she, her. Had different pronouns than they thought.
Columna vacía.
Are we looking at alien boobies? Is these alien boobies, guys? Is this our first glimpse of real alien boobies? This is nothing like Total Recall. This is not like Total Recall like I thought.
El trabajo de los negacionistas, que básicamente ha sido hacer diagnósticos mirando lo que ven en su móvil o en su computadora plácidamente sentados en sus oficinas. Bueno, a estas afirmaciones sin sustento se sumaron algunos burócratas del Ministerio de Cultura de mi país. Acá sería...
To be fair, it just looks like some weird collarbone, okay? This whole thing is
de la Secretaría de Cultura.
crazy.
Y a ello se sumó también una lista de comunicadores que usaron sus medios de prensa y canales como trinchera para atacar este caso como un fraude. Mostraron unas artesanías rituales como las que ven ahí. Las que están con una X en blanco son piezas pequeñitas de 15 centímetros o 20 centímetros que acompañan el entierro, pero son piezas rituales. Nosotros les hemos encontrado un
Look at how it totally looks like the ET movie. So weird.
ritual como un tributo
I'm gonna get restricted now, yeah.
que los ancestros que enterraron estos cuerpos querían remedar, querían replicar, querían mostrar lo que ellos
I have to keep
La imagen de
responding.
la
I don't want to
derecha
get
es uno de
copyright
esos cuerpos que
flagged.
tienen ahí.
This is a
O sea,
commentary video.
similar, porque son
You want to go
varios.
watch the
Acá hay dos
original? It's
ejemplares.
Christina Gomez's.
Entonces, quisieron confundir a la opinión pública y miren la diferencia. La de arriba es una
Yo, okay, so there's the height. We got the height.
algunos de los análisis que se han hecho mostraron
is
unas
such a
artesanías
long
rituales
live
como las que
stream.
ven ahí. Y
My
la de abajo es una
word.
pieza ritual, incluso es de menor tamaño. Miren sus rostros, miren.
Is this the two different ones? 25 centimeters, 60 centimeter. These look like two different bodies for sure. This one doesn't have hands or feet. This one's got a head turned sideways. This is weird. Look at the ribs. How they go all the way down like a slinky down the abdomen. It's like the thing freaking swallowed a dryer vent tube.
En su pie, miren las características. Han querido imitarlos, tienen un valor importantísimo a nivel cultural, pero no son los cuerpos
These look like out of some archaeological dig or something, right?
desecados que se están investigando en varias, con personal y catedráticos de varias universidades. Son manualidades, sí, pero tienen una importancia que va a ser estudiada posteriormente. También señalaron estos miembros de la comunidad científica también señalaron que el hallazgo vino de una excavación ilegal, que no hubo arqueólogos presentes. Y es cierto, no hubo arqueólogos presentes. Sin embargo, así han sido la mayoría de los hallazgos más importantes de la arqueología de nuestro
Hey, this is the other one, right? With the folded arms. The one that's curled up. This one looks totally familiar from a different 2017 the Incari Institution, Cusco. The cultural minister of Peru. Did I just read Español?
nuestro país y en muchos países también. Hasta ICA, que es lo que hace esa, que es el 85%.
These are supposed to be the scans of the heart. Implants, metallic implants. There's metallic implants in the body. It is a collarbone. It's a big collarbone across the front. And these are metal implants. Is that what that means? They have implanted tech also.
Más o menos, es típico precolombino, pero también hallaron un metal
Which would be
que es
very
el más
interesting if
denso,
this is out of an
costoso
archaeological
y
dig,
escaso
right?
del
If these are
planeta.
old,
Se
but they
llama
have metal
osmio
implants in
y
the
hoy se usa
body
en
back from
satélites, en los transbordadores que han ido al
some
espacio
Peru
y en
dig.
comunicaciones. Pero estos seres se adelantaron casi un milenio a los humanos y lo usaron sobre su piel. Uno de los ingenieros metalúrgicos especuló que lo único
Did they say they're 1,000 years old, dried out? Oh, he is explaining the genetics.
que para lo único que podría servir es, él se imagina que podría haber sido para localización. Pero estamos hablando de seres que han caminado hace 1100 años por lo menos. Entonces,
So if they're 1,000 years old and they have metallic implants inside of them, this is ancient technology materials. So when they talk about biological materials being metamaterials as well, they don't differentiate between the bodies of the entities and the technology of the implants or the craft, because they even talk about the craft being conscious. And if this is real, and we don't even know, this is just some UFO hearing. This could all just be like,
es bien extraño. También podría
make up
tener
your own
fines
mind.
biomédicos.
I'm
En
having a
fin,
good
por último,
time.
los
This is
catedráticos
crazy.
también perforaron con mucha delicadeza uno de los vientres
Those
que
look like
estaba
those look
en
like
gestación,
legit
por muy
bones, though.
extraño que le suene. Y
For X-rays, those look real. Those look like real bones with freaking eggs inside.
Tomaron
This is
muestras de estas formas
weird,
ovoides que
guys.
ven ahí en las imágenes y la espectrometría les confirmó que se trataba de material orgánico propio de un huevo. La comunidad científica dijo que eran piedras, que eran bolas de metal que le habían metido a un muñeco para hacerlo parecer algo exótico. Los científicos de la universidad le dijeron claramente que no fue así. La tomografía digital, si me acompañan las imágenes, le pones play al centro, y eso es lo grandioso que tenemos en la tecnología. Le
This
podemos
is going
quitar
down through the
capas
brain.
y capas a una de estas formaciones ovoides y esto nos va a permitir ver lo que hay en el interior.
That's
Esto
now
no
going
es
through
una
the egg.
piedra, señores y señores. Vamos quitando
There's a
las
baby in
capas
the
y va
egg.
quedando lo que todo nos indica que se trata de un embrión de pocas semanas de gestación.
Oh, there's an alien embryo. That's supposed to be an alien embryo in the egg. They lay eggs like a reptile. Ooh, is that why they call them reptilians? What the frickin' frick? What the hell?
Esta es una recreación que se hizo con tomografías directas hechas por el Instituto Incari y las imágenes se lograron con el trabajo también de la Universidad de San Petersburgo de Rusia.
What is that?
No estamos hablando de un grupo de huaqueros que ha hecho algo así, o un grupo de excavadores de tumbas.
That freaking looks like a lizard egg, like a reptile egg, yeah.
Esto es lo que, y la siguiente imagen, porque miren, para que vean que esto no es una casualidad, 2 años después en el Perú, en mi país, la Universidad de Ica replicó el análisis tomográfico en otro cuerpo que también estaba en gestación. Y junto a un experto lograron hallar estas imágenes. Si le pones play también al centro, por favor. Lo que ven a la derecha es, digamos, la imagen de costado y lo que van viendo a la izquierda es la de costado y a la derecha la parte de arriba hacia abajo, mientras va corriendo el tomógrafo. Ahí pueden ver en la parte superior.
This looks like real biological material, guys. This is freaking weird. Is this some laboratory experiment they grew? If they're faking this, this is elaborately faked. This is crazy. If this is real or fake, this is huge.
Lo que sería su cabecita. En la parte media, unos bracitos que se extienden hacia
Yeah. Who wants to breathe in the powder off of these things? Ugh. Freaking turn into a mutant.
adelante y toda la parte inferior es el resto del cuerpo que está en formación. Es la primera vez que en un foro de este nivel se ven estas imágenes, señores. Pueden comparar, miren, las imágenes de un feto humano y de un
Human, non-human. This is getting freaking weird, guys. This is getting weird. We were going to do the US whistleblower thing, and Grusch is like, yeah, we're not going to talk about the biologics. It's going to freak people out. And Mexico's like, you want the bodies? We got a pregnant one with eggs. Look at the
feto
baby.
no humano, como el que tienen ahí en las vitrinas. Esto verdaderamente es sorprendente porque no estamos hablando de ficción, estamos hablando de ciencia. Si no fuera por...
What do you mean it's not weird? It's a freaking alien. It's the weirdest shit ever.
Estamos viendo, estos seres han estado conviviendo por la época de la datación de carbono 14 con la cultura Nazca. Pero esto no hubiera
He
sido
said
posible
Nazca.
ver
It
si
is
es
the
que no
Nazca
hubiera sido por el
aliens.
método de preservación practicado sobre estos cuerpos, que los ha mantenido con sus órganos internos. La cobertura blanca y ese color característico que tienen no lo van a ver en ninguna otra forma de preservación.
Dude is brave. He's freaking touching the powder. He's got it right on his bare fingers, like raw dog.
En el mundo. La cobertura blanca es una combinación de tierra de diatomeas, ya lo mencionó Jaime, y algas fosilizadas, además.
Okay, you guys are saying it's not weird? Okay. You don't think it's unusual breaking news that Mexico just unveiled 2 coffins with bodies and one has eggs inside? I think that's a little bit surprising.
Hace un compuesto químico extremadamente tóxico y letal. que no es natural, hay que fabricarlo, hay que producirlo. Ahí tienen la fórmula, es el CdCl12, es el cloruro de cadmio.
These are the entities that they're claiming are abducting humans and doing crossbreeding and genetic programs and impregnations and probing on humans. And you guys in the comments are going to tell me these are not weird. I think it's weird.
Mortal, para
I can change
resumir.
my perspective and understand that, these are probably from other dimensions or some other planet if it's real, or it's some kind of a hoax. But I'm sorry, to see an alien body with eggs inside.
Y esto, combinado con la tierra de Atomea, es lo que le da esa característica de color a las llamadas momias de Nazca, estos cuerpos desecados. También se adelantaron como 1800 años a nuestra civilización porque nosotros no lo conocíamos.
Holy shit! He just went there. What?
Hasta hace 200. Nuestra investigación nos ha llevado a encontrar la anatomía de estos seres tridáctilos.
Did I not just show you guys petroglyphs in Utah that look exactly like this?
Son 3 dedos. Casi en todas las culturas precolombinas, en su cerámica, en telares, pinturas rupestres y hasta en petroglifos que tienen decenas de miles de años.
This is real.
No
This
son
is the
simples
biggest
figuras
validation in the
antropomorfas o
world for me
mitológicas
right now.
imaginadas por nuestros ancestros. Fueron reales. Están viendo sus restos aquí.
I'm
Ya
having a
sea en
moment.
Perú, en Chile, en Cuba. Vamos viendo las siguientes imágenes, por favor.
I do know
En
about all this.
México,
This
en
is
Estados
just crazy to
Unidos,
come out.
en Armenia, en Irán, en casi en todos los lugares del mundo hay este tipo de imágenes donde se muestran a seres de cabezas grandes, ojos muy grandes también, y solamente 3 dedos en manos y pies.
Right, Roger?
El impacto cultural de este hallazgo va a tener muchas repercusiones. Miren esa muñeca, por ejemplo. Esa muñeca estaba exhibida en un museo, en el Museo de Arte de
This is
Lima,
cool.
y tiene 3 dedos también, como las momias que hemos encontrado, como los cuerpos desecados que hemos encontrado. No puede ser una casualidad.
If this is real, this is the
Vamos a
coolest
la
shit
siguiente,
ever,
por favor.
guys. This is so cool.
La siguiente.
Our
Como
reality
les
just
decía,
got
el
way
impacto
cooler.
cultural de este
Oh,
hallazgo va a
this
tener
is so
repercusiones a mediano y
freaking
largo
cool.
plazo en la arqueología, la historia, la evolución de las
This
especies
is
y
so
hasta en las
rad.
religiones. Sin embargo, ya está calando en las nuevas generaciones. Vamos con la penúltima, por favor.
Yeah, of course it's common sense. Y'all want to act like you knew it all ahead of time, but to have it come out from the official government statements in a UFO hearing is freaking cool. It's validating to finally, if this is real, it is really cool. Y'all can act like you knew it all already or like you're whatever, but like good for you. Go feel good about yourself.
Miren, esa imagen es reciente, se hizo viral en mi país
I'm enjoying
la
it.
semana que pasó. Es el trabajo de ciencias de un niño del Cusco.
I'm not
Está
surprised
reproduciendo
either.
las
It's just really
características
exciting to
físicas de
see
las
it all.
momias de
Yeah, I've
Nazca.
seen all of these. I've
Los
seen
niños ya
the
están
big one.
accediendo a esta información pese a todos
The
los
petroglyph
intentos de
connection is
negarla,
freaking dope. It's
denostarla
just
y
cool
de
to have other
proscribirla.
people connect dots like this.
Yo aprovecho para hacer un llamado con todo respeto a los científicos y catedráticos de verdad en todo el mundo. Duden.
Yeah, I've seen the Peru and the Nazca thing. I've watched the whole Gaia stuff about the body and the scans and the big one and all of this. But they're unveiling more and more and more. They've got full body scans, one with eggs. They're analyzing it all. They're coming out with all of it. It's freaking cool.
Los invito, como lo hice yo al principio con este caso. Yo soy un periodista incrédulo como la mayoría
Yeah,
de
just
ustedes
one part
que
of
están
it
aquí.
has to be
Pero me
real for
acerqué
this to be
también.
mind blowing.
Por las dudas que tenía me acerqué. Yo no dije, es falso y seguí haciendo otra cosa. Me acerqué al caso porque pensé que había algo muy sospechoso ahí. Y no fue sospechoso, fue extraordinario. Por eso los invito.
Well, here, yeah, good point here. It can be a little bit terrifying for people that have been abducted because suddenly now what people maybe have just considered as psychic experiences or out of body experiences, now that takes a whole other level when you've got bodies, physical, real entities laying there. We're not talking about a psychological experience or We're not talking about an implanted psychotronic hallucination or something like that duping you. These are actual anatomical biologics with, look, implants and stuff apparently.
Que consta de cabeza, tronco, abdomen
If this is fake, this is crazy fake.
y extremidades, las cuales concluyen en manos y pies tridáctilos. La estructura ósea de todo el esqueleto nos muestra una
Comparison
perfecta
with the
armonía y
petroglyphs freaking
concordancia
blew my
entre las
mind. Look at that
articulaciones.
skull.
La parte final de cada hueso embona a la perfección con el hueso que le sigue.
It looks
Y
real,
además
yo.
se observa el desgaste de estos por el movimiento de la biomecánica propia del espécimen, siendo huesos muy resistentes pero muy ligeros, fuertes pero livianos como los de las aves. La cabeza es un elemento de particular interés, ya que es grande en sus
Dude, our
proporciones
reality is
comparadas al
bizarre.
cuerpo.
Look at that.
Sin
If this is real, look at the neck.
embargo,
The way that they look like the petroglyphs is
es un cráneo
crazy.
neumatizado, es decir, con espacios que le permiten ser muy ligero, pero rígido y resistente, con una gran cavidad intracraneal, lo cual evidencia que era contenedor de material cerebral o neurológico muy grande. Igualmente, vemos que los espacios de las órbitas oculares son de un tamaño muy amplio, lo que permitiría una visión estereoscópica muy amplia para este espécimen. Cuenta además con
What
unas
is this
fosas nasales
device?
muy
Is it so they
pequeñas
can
y
breathe in our atmosphere or something? Or what is it? Like some
con
kind
una
of
cavidad
pacemaker?
oral que por su articulación mandibular y ausencia de piezas dentales permite determinar que su alimentación
Look at the
era
size of the
por
mouth.
deglución y no por masticación. El cuello
Or mastication for chewing. So he's talking about the mouth and the jaw for chewing and eating.
a su vez, es una estructura larga que se une a la cabeza en el piso medio del cráneo, lo cual es una rareza que en las especies primates no ocurre, ya que la unión es en el piso posterior y no en el piso medio, a través del agujero magno, el cual suele ser de forma circular u ovoide, siendo algo único, ya que en
What do y'all
estas
think that
especies
is on the
es de
chest?
forma rectangular y cúbico. Esto hace consonancia con las 4 o 5 vértebras cervicales, las cuales son pequeñas en su grosor óseo, pero que tienen un disco intervertebral muy
Yeah, are
ancho,
these
lo
genetically
cual hace
modified? Like, are they
posible que
grown
este cuello
entities? Are
fuera
they
retráctil
androids?
como el de las tortugas. En el tórax encontramos una horquilla muy similar al de las aves que permite continuar eléctricos.
Okay, here's
Esto
the
quiere
hands.
decir
I don't know. Could be CGI, right? Did everybody see the Indian moon landing where they claimed they went to the moon? Yeah, it could be a breathing apparatus. Maybe this could just be CGI.
que
I don't
se
know.
encontraban en un proceso de gestación continuo, además de que corrobora al 100% que son biológicos y orgánicos, ya que el proceso de replicación o reproducción a través de estos huevos y de
No,
su
it looks like
desarrollo en el
CGI.
oviducto sería imposible de falsificar. U organelos que habrá que
Yo, look at the X-rays though. What the what? No, not CGI. I know, I'm just trying to stay open-minded and skeptical. Okay, so this is human ribs. See what I mean? Look at the spinal cord. But this thing is like the spinal cord is giant and the rib cage is just this tiny little cylinder, like a dryer vent tube, like a freaking slinky. And then look at the hips, they're just so tiny and flat. And it just has these eggs down in the abdomen. Look at the arms, look totally like hinged like this with the 3. It's totally like a robot or something. It's bizarro. It does still looks just like ET from the
definir
Steven
en estudios
Spielberg.
posteriores. Llegando a las extremidades, podemos señalar que hay una completa armonía.
Haven't seen any real pics, just CGI. That's what, well, earlier we looked at the bodies. they had the coffins with the actual
y
bodies
concordancia
inside.
entre las articulaciones y el
Go back and
desgaste
watch that.
propio de la biomecánica del espécimen, las cuales terminan en manos y pies tridáctilos de 5 falanges. Esto les permitiría no ocupar el dedo pulgar como posición,
5
sino ocupar sus 3
falanges.
dedos en manera de envolvimiento para sujetar
3 in the abdomen.
las cosas. He aquí una de las particularidades más sobresalientes y relevantes que no cuentan con huesos del carpo
Maybe the
y
skeleton's
del
grown
tarso.
like an
Las
ectomorph.
falanges son directas a
Yeah,
los
time to come
huesos
clean,
del
government.
brazo y el
Yeah.
antebrazo. Además de que terminan en una especie de lecho unguial para la uña y que a observación de y por
Okay, yeah, we'll take another look at the bodies here. This is a lot, guys. This
Muy
is
buenas
crazy.
tardes a todos, honorable Cámara de Diputados, honorable miembros del presidium, damas y caballeros, miembros de la prensa, movimiento muscular.
There you have it, guys. The x-rays are definitely real. It looks like real MRIs. Then it looks like the entities could be real. I know. Hybrid biologically, maybe robotic enhancements. So cool to be seeing this with the Crusher crew. It looks like it could be 3D printed. I agree. Everything you guys are saying is like plausible, right? So like now when we go back here and check this out,
An artifact or whatever, but when you
Are they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
One sort of bombshell soundbite from the hearing is Congresswoman Nancy Mace asked you about biologics. Ross Coulthart in the News Nation interview asked you about pilots coming out of these crafts. Do you want to just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it is a mind-blowing side of it, right? It's a little easy to imagine, an artifact or whatever, but when you start talking about, the biological side of it, it really throws you for a loop psychologically. It did for me. And, I talked to the people that
did it for you guys.
Were on that aspect of the program, if you will. And I mean, it comes with the territory. I mean, buckle up, I guess. I call them pilots because that's like our vernacular. I don't know what their actual job was. Yeah.
Non-human intelligence.
Yeah.
But they had bodies.
Yeah, I mean,
were they alive? Were they dead?
I don't want to get into specifics. Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of that stuff.
Out of curiosity, why are you?
Mexico wants to get into the specifics. There they are. All right, so we're gonna skip ahead because I just want to see if we can get to the point where he starts. They're going through the history, Roswell, talking about the key figures here. Everybody can go watch this video. Now they're talking about the industrial complex, nuclear weapons. Okay, let's watch this part.
See what you can do with this. Or it's almost like playing with you.
Sorry, I had the wrong tab open.
David Fravor in his account was like, the thing felt like it was like breathing and looking at me and knew, he even said it, you let it slip in the testimony. It was like, it definitely was aware of our existence. I'm like, how do you know that, man? You're not in the UFO's shoes, but I understand what he was saying, which is you can sense when somebody's looking at you.
Yeah, I know. I've had some folks I talked to that had their own kind of up close kind of sightings. They said that they got that vibe too. And who knows if that's psychosomatic or what, but they did get a vibe like that too.
When you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course, I've had a very smart guy was like, well, did Darwin care to fully conceal himself when he studied the finches? And it's like, they observe, they don't really care.
Right.
And they don't really care to interact, but they're just here to observe. But
is that your bias, that it's sort of an anthropological, zoological model where they're like studying us and we're in this kind of petri dish?
I think, I'll give credit to Lou for the whole.
There's Mr. Lou. Didn't we just talk about him earlier? Or we speculated whether or not this information was getting fed to David Grusch from Mr. Elizondo. Pin the tail on the donkey. Look who just showed up to dinner. Lou Elizondo, former director of ATIP.
Gorilla in the cage and,
Yep.
throw it a banana, throw it the key and see if it can unlock the cage.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what's, some of these, crashes were. And it wasn't really a mission failure, if you will. It was, maybe some seeding. This is a total theoretical framework here.
So it's like
we'll never really know, but yeah.
see what you can do with this,
Yeah.
or the key is nuclear power or something, and it's like the gorilla we have the key. Another analogy that Eric Weinstein loves to use is
Eric Weinstein. Okay, so all of these guys have also made a rotation on the Joe Rogan podcast too, right?
he talks about North Sentinel Island, which is an island of Aboriginals who basically have not made any contact with civilization. It's off the coast of India. And the Indian government basically just lets them do their thing and kind of respects them. And take this analogy, if the North Sentinelese started developing nukes, maybe the Indian government would start to pay a little more attention.
Let's see who comes up next. Who are they going to name drop next?
To the extent that there is interference, I think one anomaly that's important to talk about is it seems to be like there's a lot of electromagnetic radiation that comes off of these crafts. And I remember talking to Gary Nolan, and he mentioned...
Pin the tail on the donkey again. Gary Nolan. He is the main doctor going out from Stanford, which is also the main place Hal Puthoff came out of this Stanford Research Institute. Now Gary Nolan is out of Stanford. When I mentioned Skinwalker Ranch to Gary Nolan on Twitter, he blocked me on Twitter because he knows, right? So he is analyzing all of the MRI scans that Kit Green did, and half of those MRI scans were done at Skinwalker Ranch. So Gary Nolan, here he's popping up. So he's a part of this. This all connects to Skinwalker Ranch, the Fugal, Bob Bigelow era, Mount Wilson Ranch, and all of these people are connected. And yeah, Kit Green.
That he was kind of given a file by the CIA, and
see, so half of these MRIs, I bet if we zoomed in, I wonder if Chris Bartell's brain scan from Skinwalker Ranch is on this page, or Thomas Winterton. How many of these came from Skinwalker, and they're not admitting it? They want it to be like it's from some other random place. So what, is there really a craft, or what is going on?
He was tasked with looking into this, and it was two things. It was people who had anomalous UFO experiences, and it was people who had experienced Havana syndrome.
There it is, the Skinwalker Ranch documents that we talked about in the previous live stream, and the one before that in connection with the patents in relation to Dr. Tim Ryan, who's been up at Mount Wilson Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, and all of this. It all is lining up with this idea that Gary Nolan, Kit Green, and these guys were actively doing brain scans on the security crew at Skinwalker Ranch. But they don't want to talk about Utah. They're not talking about Mount Wilson Ranch. It's just like, maybe it is some global thing, but apparently the actual metamaterials and a lot of this stuff in the United States is coming from Utah and Nevada. Maybe even the metamaterials, especially if they're part of the biologics or have something to do with the bismuth or the craft.
Diplomats and spies.
But Gary Nolan is, he's connected to all of this. There's photos of him on Instagram hanging out with Eric Davis and Jeremy Corbell in pictures together. Like they went to lunch together. And Eric Davis was the lead scientist at Skinwalker Ranch for Bob Bigelow. He's a laser physicist along with Hal Puthoff from Stanford Research Institute. So, and there's photos of all of these guys standing in the meadow at Skinwalker Ranch. So I'm not trying to force fit it back, but I'm like, where did Hal Puthoff get his metamaterial? Come on.
Despite strong performance. 2 weeks later, he mysteriously pops up as an employee at Martin Corporation in Burbank. just 50 miles from where Skunkworks is founded a year later.
Yeah,
by
we're gonna
legendary
skip ahead here.
aeronautical
We've been going on an
engineer
hour and a
Edwin
half.
Johnson. Skunkworks.
They start to get into all the conspiracies.
There's more lucky people from the program watching your channel than ours.
Talking about the Matrix, getting into the industrial
Our
complex.
overlay is
Okay, so I'm trying to get to this one part where they actually show an interview Hal Puthoff. They talk about the science. Where is it? They get into the DoD secret energy. Oh, here's Bob
And
Lazar.
was he used by the original atomic UFO programs and by the Air Force to downplay it?
Bob Lazar said he worked at a secret facility near Groom Lake.
Now we got Bob Lazar, and here's George Knapp's voice. So George Knapp was the guy sitting behind Grusch at the congressional whistleblower hearing with Jeremy Corbell, who they made the Skinwalker, and they've been writing the book about Skinwalker Ranch.
Where alien technology was
Documentary.
being reverse engineered.
Do you think Bob Lazar is full of shit?
Bob Lazar is by far the most famous case of somebody who publicly claims to have secretly worked on reverse engineering UFOs.
There's Jeremy.
He outed himself
There's Jeremy Corbell. See, all these guys know each other. Just connect the dots.
in 1989, and since then
I mean,
has
Lou
remained
Elizondo was just
remarkably
on screen a
consistent in
second
his
ago.
story, even while detractors cite that he possibly faked his educational credentials at MIT.
He ended up actually recently going on Joe Rogan, and it's still like this bizarre split where like so many
Joe
people-
Rogan, look.
You can easily discredit the leak. Bob Lazar would hang around
John
some
Lear.
interesting characters, guys like John Lear, who flew cargo planes for the CIA in the 70s. Lear
These
definitely
guys are all coming out of Nevada. These are all Nevada dudes. Area 51 tycoons. Here we go. Okay, I'm skipping ahead. Oh, look who we saw.
which is wild to me.
Jacques Vallée might be the most preeminent UFO researcher
Jacques
in the
Vallée.
world. In fact, he was Steven Spielberg's inspiration for the eccentric.
There's Steven Spielberg. Weren't we just showing how the UFO, the aliens in Mexico look like ET? What in the world is going on? He was the scientist that was the inspiration for the French character and the doctor in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie by Steven Spielberg. So this is all connecting in this weird circle, right? Here's Jacques Vallée, who is also in the book that he wrote up there at Mount Wilson Ranch right before they 2 weeks before they bought Skinwalker Ranch, and was part of all this.
French scientist played by Francois Truffaut in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, nobody's really replaced.
I gotta watch
him at
this
that
music.
level.
I gotta watch the music, or I'm gonna get flagged here for sure. So I'll mute that. Sorry. Where's the commentary? We're at an hour and 16, so I'll skip over here on the right. Here we go. I was gonna see, maybe I could make the closed captioning. Ah, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna go back so we can hear him now.
Which is wild to me.
Jacques Vallée might be the most preeminent UFO researcher in the and actually linked with time travel, not just space travel.
Come on.
The main point of the movie was entertainment, and it was appropriate for the UFOs to be extraterrestrial visitors.
In that same interview, Jacques Vallée goes on to explain how he thought at a conclusion of his research that a lot of the UFO sightings and abduction cases that he thought that they were hoaxed or faked by some sort of an agency that had the ability to fake things. So in that same interview, he was just talking about there. Sorry guys, I got to skip that because of the music. I'm not going to be able to show it, but they go on and reference all of this, you guys. I think the highlight of tonight, oh my gosh, now they're talking about Rick Doty. And it goes into the muddy waters here throughout the rest of this, tying it into everything you can imagine, back to even the spiritual revelations and everything, and all kinds of government conspiracy. And it ranks the UFO metamaterial and biological materials up there as higher in importance than nuclear and atomic secrets in importance. And if what we saw is true about the Mexico alien bodies, that is absolutely crazy. So I appreciate you guys over here in the chat. I've been watching. We've got almost 500 people. Let's just take a minute. Is there any questions that you guys have? Any other points that you want to make here in the live stream before we wrap it up tonight? Otherwise, we're going to close it out here at a little bit over an hour and a half. I think you guys are awesome. Super smart computer could run the body and other functions. Yeah, those biological implants and the materials in there, that's definitely strange. Blue beam is also plausible deniability. That's true. It goes both ways. If they can say that there's maybe fake material or, you know, fake hoaxable stuff out there, then they can hide the real thing when it shows up. So, and vice versa. Thank you, Mind Forked. Thanks, Tanya. Appreciate all you guys. You guys were awesome in the chat and hanging out today. I've been dropping all sorts of crazy stuff on my TikTok. I've been doing a lot of live streams over there, posting on Instagram, and especially on YouTube. Make sure and go to my Patreon if you want to get all the behind the scenes, join my meditation stuff, and go to Mount Wilson Ranch and their Patreon page so that you can go visit the ranch and help us do research and find out if what Bigelow said at the beginning of this show is really true. Was there giant UFOs the size of football fields and football stadiums flying around Pioche, Nevada, northern Nevada, up there by Mount Wilson Ranch, phasing in and out of the mountain? And can we catch one on camera, or can we find some of these alien bodies ourselves? And will we be the first ones to do it right there? We will find out. Thanks you guys so much. I appreciate you. Again, another shout out to the Crusher Crew Inner Circle on the Patreon page. And we're going to see you guys in the next one. Bye.
You ready?
There is a connection between the paranormal, UFOs, and the myths of ancient history. The clues are scattered across the landscape from a forbidden past, maybe even in your own backyard. There is a connection between the true nature of our reality, consciousness, and the unexplained. I'm Carl the Crusher. Let's explore the unknown.